All right, well, I think we'll get started. Others may join us in a bit. Thank you for attending our virtual session today. Not only are we virtual, but we're also going to use technology, so I'm nervous, but our presenters do not look. So welcome, thanks for everyone for joining. Today we have Jennifer Simm, who actually we're very fortunate to have here at Providence right now. Working in data management, but previously worked at PROMIS, so the perfect person to help us through this, and supported by Claire Bannon, who many of you know, who works with BC Transplant and here at the St. Paul's Hospital Renal Program. And so this is actually a direct request from many of you that wanted to know a little bit of kind of behind the curtain of the transplant assessment process and basically what is in PROMIS with respect to transplant assessment. What can we get access for if needed, and really what goes on kind of behind the scenes and at that next step, so that there's an awareness when asked for information or when patients have questions a little bit, so we're all a bit more informed about what is and isn't available. So thank you for joining, and I will pass it over to Jennifer and Claire.
Hello. Hi, everybody. So we're going to go through the process from start to finish when a patient comes in to the KCC clinic and gets set up as their modality selection. So we're going to sign into patient view first. I'm sure everyone's probably familiar with using patient view for PROMIS. Has everyone signed into patient view before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you see the screen? Is it working? Okay.
Yeah, good. Great.
Okay. So we have a test patient to go through. Her name is Elaine Test.
Yep.
Okay. So to see patient view's modality selection menu, you need to go to the default screen that comes up right away and then change it to the renal screen. So we're going to just hit the renal button and then scroll down, and you can see modality selection. So this patient has not been initiated for modality selection. So here's our patient, Elaine Test, has not been initiated, and we're going to go through the process today on how to initiate. Is everyone familiar with the process of modality selection and how to initiate a person? Has anyone ever not done this before? No? Okay, I'm moving forward. So we're going to start a new modality selection cycle for this patient. So date identified, I'm going to use today's date because the patient first came to the clinic back in December 2016. And reason for modality selection is that the patient's eGFR is less than 25, because this patient in this case is at 15, the eGFR rate. Want to say anything? So that's the first steps in initiating a patient for modality selection, that they've been identified. And now we're going to go through the next version of treatment options. Now, treatment options is where we talk about what suitable assessments and therapies they can go through. To add a new entry, go into Edit. And then we want to fill out the information about this patient who's interested in PD treatment as well as going forward with the transplant. So we're going to put down the date that the patient was first reviewed. Since they were initiated today, we're going to say we also spoke with the patient today starting. And then we're going to say that the patient is a candidate for some therapies. And what we're going to do is say they're a candidate for PD, independent, and PD assist. You can see that the dates auto-populate under the assessment date. And conservative care is automatically usually a yes answer. And then we save our entries. Now you can see below that our 2 entries have been made. You can go into further description for the dialysis subtype information, but we're going to pass that for right now. But here you can put in more information if they want to be a cycler, CAPD, home. Next part we're going to go into is education. Now this patient has been educated about PD treatment as well as transplant, so we're going to put the information in here that education was provided and that they would talk about conservative care and a decision was made. So we're going to talk first about education provided. We'll do PD as well. So they did PD, it was individual, and it was today's date. The next part going into it is then patient decision. We're going to click our edit button to add our entries. We're going to write down or enter our decision for dialysis under PD independent. Our decision date, we're going to use today's date. And the patient's reason, you can choose one of the options here. For right now, I'm just going to say we're going to use, let's just use medical decision to go forward. And then here is where you can enter the transplant information. For this patient, we've discussed transplant options and they do want to go forward. And you can say it's the same date as today's date or whatever date you actually spoke to the patient. And here in comments, you can put both information about the modality of choice and the transplant information of what they plan to do going forward. You can make a comment saying that they have a family member who's a donor or anything. Any comments in here, it's a free text field. We'll save our data.
Would the transplant program see any of that free text? If they said they have a donor? Or would only the KCC side see it?
Patient view, they have access. They should be able to see it.
They could see it.
Yeah, they could see it. They could sign in. Okay. And especially, too, with the modality selection report being available, it'll print out in the report as well.
Well, there's quite an echo when you're talking. I don't know if others are hearing that.
Anyone else hear echo?
I think somebody needs to mute their phone.
Okay. Okay. We have one phone in here.
There's one phone in here. Is there an echo for everyone?
Now the echo's gone.
Oh.
How about now? Everything okay?
All good.
Okay. All right. So you've got your patient identification done. You've got the treatment options chosen, and your education's completed, and the decision's been made. The next part for treatment started, the patient can still be part of the KCC clinic and hasn't gone forward to PD yet. So in here you can leave the information as not assessed, but once they've gone over to PD, that's where you can update it and add the information of when they've actually started their treatment. And to add that information, you just hit the edit button. Select the date of when their chronic dialysis treatment started. In our case example, we're not going to say the patient started just yet. And then you mark down that the patient started modality of choice, yes or no. So if the patient did go forward going to PD, you select yes, or say something else happened and the patient crashed and they had to go to HD, you say no, they didn't start their modality of choice. And here you can specify some additional information. It's another free text field where you can write anything about the patient's case. Now, one of the other features of modality selection is there's a tab called Modality Selection History, where you can see all the dates and information I just entered today and anything else that's entered later on in the future. Then there's also now a new report feature for modality selection. If you click the reports button in the upper left-hand corner, sorry, right-hand corner, modality selection status, you can pull a report of all your patients to see what their status is at the moment. This was released in the last PROMIS update back at the beginning of the month. Or then you can pick your center, you can choose a date range, you can look for patients with certain eGFR reading, like in our case we're using a 15. You can search by specific nephrologists, and then you can filter by patients with no treatments or no education or no decisions, so that way you can pull up a list of patients and find out where they at the time.
Where would you use the, why do you need that date range? I'm curious because wouldn't you want to know most currently, like what would be the situation that you would need, let's say?
So maybe you're going back your last 6 months and seeing like, where are my patients at right now?
Okay.
That's where you use a date range.
And you would include all the ones that started as well?
You can. So like you have choices to filter by, like you want to know, filter by patients with no treatment disability or no education. So if they've already started and just initiated and they haven't filled out their education, you'll catch the ones that just started but hasn't been spoken to by education.
I would think that for CKD clinics, the eGFR report is more useful because you don't have to put a date in, because a lot of our patients get education a year.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just do the eGFR report, you get exactly the same information.
It's another option.
Yeah, it gives more information to do the eGFR report rather than the report from there.
Yeah. I would pull the report now just to show an example, but the difference with this report is all those comment fields that we put information in there, they show up in the report.
Okay, well
so they kind of give you the whole history. Where
I guess that's a benefit, and you could backdate if you wanted to go back 2 years. You could do it 2 years.
So you can really see what's the whole picture for your patient versus just the numbers of the
Yeah,
labs.
all right.
All right, so that's the section about modality selection, and so we're going to go into the next part where it goes for transplant.
Does anyone else have any questions about modality selection before the transplant part?
No?
No? Okay.
Okay, moving forward. All right, so Claire's going to talk about transplant here regarding the same patient, a lane test.
Good. So some of you may not have this, if you look at your PROMIS screen, don't have this transplant tab at the very top where it says File, Reports, Treatment, Monitoring, Scheduling, Reports, Transplant. So in order to be able to see that tab, you really have to fill out a form that's in PROMIS and get it signed off, and it's just an account user request. So it would be for where it's highlighted there down at the bottom for transplant, kidney, and kidney pancreas.
Mm-hmm.
So then you'll be able to see all your patients that you've referred for transplant.
Now we've informed PROMIS support about your request forms that are going to be sending in, and these areas highlighted in red is what you want to indicate on the user request form that you want transplant access. So under office and clinic, if you mark KCC access to kidney referral form, PreAssessment, and transplant reports, and we'll just send this out as a screenshot to everybody as well after this webinar, and then write the roles here, PRA pre-transplant and CIS full view and CIS read. That will let the staff know at PROMIS support what roles exactly to give you to see the same screens that we are seeing today during the webinar. As well, then you need to mark BC Transplant Clinic that yes, you're using the pre-transplant access, and then also marking off under programs kidney and kidney pancreas. To find this user request form, if you need access to it, you can find it on the PROMIS homepage under Forms, PROMIS User Account. and it'll pop up as a PDF document for you. Now, to get your manager sign-off access, I'm going to correspond with the other data coordinators within your regions to let them know that you're requesting such access. So they are all signing managers, which can approve your form and sign off on this bottom page here. If you find that a manager is questioning any access, go ahead and send their information or give them my contact information. I can help explain the meaning behind all of this access changes. And look up my name, Jennifer Simm. As well as PROMIS support is aware that the access changes are coming as too. So we'll go back to Classic.
So this, so access to this module in Transplant will open up, so you'll know exactly, you'll be able to see everything that's going on with your patients in the transplant process. Yeah, so just to recap, the absolute contraindications must be met before you can go on to the referral. And then you hit save again. And then also, sorry, Jennifer, at the top you can write in any comments that you like in there, and that will be saved as well. And then save that, and then you can move on to the next module. So the next part is screening. We'll try to make this fairly user-friendly. So really the highlighted blue parts need to be filled in. The first part is looking for their sensitizing events. If they've had any previous blood transfusions, pregnancies, or prior transplants, these may make it harder for a recipient, if any of those are positive, to have a match, either deceased donor or living donor. We really want, again, for you to be discussing living donation and identifying there, because that helps us triage when to bring a patient in for a transplant assessment, if there's any living donors, and then just any living donor information. Usually, whatever is in PROMIS will be auto-populated into this module, like their chronic kidney disease, if they've had a previous transplant, and the one button that is kind of hidden, but you have to check before you can move on, is beside their primary renal diagnosis, there's verified box. That has to be checked before you sort of can move on to any other module. If they've had a biopsy, yes or no, that will be also auto-populated. And then just save that module.
It doesn't actually for you.
Oh, okay. The next module is demographics. And again, that should just verify that, and that's from their PROMIS demographics. And one thing that we definitely need is their blood type, which is on this one. Or really any other information, their English ability, because that will help us also in the pre-transplant to triage, or do we need an interpreter. And then the other one that must be populated is whether they're ambulatory or not. They won't, the referral won't go through unless you put that in.
So again, all areas that are blue need to be filled out. So here, like the phone number is missing, you need to have some information. And height or weight.
There's also populates.
There was no phone number in the actual account.
Height and weight usually
populates
from the
phone number well.
Yeah.
But actually the biopsies don't.
Oh, the biopsies don't.
No,
okay.
But the rest does, including the blood group.
Okay.
Also here with the physical examination, it can take you save your changes, it can take you over to that form physical examination that's under the monitoring menu.
But I knew when I first started filling out referrals in the failing graft population, it wouldn't let me submit, and I couldn't figure it out. But the key one is this ambulatory button. That's the one. That's the one thing. Right. And then the next module is the physicians and treatment. This part gets auto-populated from whatever information is in PROMIS, usually their CKD physician, their family physician, any other specialists that are listed in PROMIS. And then the next one, lab and virology. So these are the mandatory labs, and anything in red needs to be redone or needs to be tested for the referral. You can actually print out a PROMIS lab rec on the right there, or an MSP lab rec, and it'll auto-populate what's missing. So the tests sort of have to be within a year.
Or in this case, you can have a pop-up blocker to stop you. I'll come back to it.
Good. And then the next one is the other tests. So these are the ones that sort of take a while for the results to come back. So a chest x-ray, ECG, and then down on the bottom is explanation. So because she's fairly young, she won't require an echo or a MIBI unless she was listed as being diabetic. She won't require a FIT test, but anyone over age 50 needs a FIT test. All patients need a PSA if they're male over age 40, I think. But it's all explained down the bottom. Pap smear, mammogram. And so you can order those and put the date in. And again, until they're submitted or an explanation is there, or you can even put in test done, copy sent, then you can put the referral through. So again, this is still initiated. So you also have to fill out the ordering physician for each one of those as well.
Mm-hmm.
This is the one that takes a while.
You can attach a copy of the report here as well.
Mm-hmm.
Save your changes first. And that'll take you straight over to document history, where then you can do your manual upload. Pick your category. We were saying that the chest x-ray is done.
Radiology.
I totally passed it.
What passed it? It's not in any order.
Nope.
It's near the top, actually. It did pass it. Near the top.
Here it is.
Oops.
Oh, there it is.
There you go. Let's see, I did the beginning of the month. Find your documents. Take it out. Actually, we'll take that file. I don't think I'll take that file either. Then you upload your document, it's in there. There are some requirements though. It can only be a text doc, and PDF, an HTML doc. So this file won't work. So you do have to save a different type of file. But once you upload it, it's scanned on in there. You get out of document history and you go back to your referral.
Good. And then we'll just save that. The next module is medications, and again this will be auto-populated from the medication module. But you do need to just hit create a report on the right. And fortunately she's not on any medication, but it would bring up everything that Ms. Test is on. And we'll just save that. And then the next module is comorbidities. So this one, either if you know the patient really well, or you can run this through with a physician or the nephrologist. But these need to be filled out in the required referral. So if you hit edit transplant comorbidities, this one can take some time as well. You could hit no for all of them and then just hit the yes ones, or which I find is the easiest way to do it. So you can hit no, and it'll populate no with the date, and then just switch around. So set all to no. And then any ones like hypertension or cardiac, I'll just switch it to yes. And that seems to be the easiest way. And then you can put in free text in there as well. But all of those need to be filled out. Good. And there is an explanation for each of those comorbidities. And then we save that.
And once you exit, back to the referral form.
And that should be fine. Save that. And then the Hep B chronology is already auto-populated through the CKD clinic or wherever current clinic the patient's in. Not sure referral. So once all of that is done, you can go back to the main, up to the top actually, and instead of referral initiated, you can hit referral submitted. And it says it's incomplete, probably because of the outstanding tests, but if you want to see what's missing, you can hit the check mandatory button. It'll tab, so it's the virology that hasn't been completed yet. The other tests haven't been completed yet, so it's the PAP test. The medications, there's something missing there, I think, because there's no medications listed for this patient. Something in the comorbidities. So I think we'll have to do it.
If you hit the bottom right, edit transport comorbidities, and it tells you.
Yeah.
Oh.
We already went over there and went through.
It shows you what are the ones that haven't been done.
And then there's something in the demographics that's missing. So anything that's starved. So we've missed something there.
The height and weight.
The height and weight. Right. Okay. Good, so that's the transplant referral. So you might want to, you can pull a list from PROMIS of patients who've been referred but haven't been completed. Also, sorry, if you go back to that transplant referral, for that patient, there is a drop-down box under current referral status. So under initiated. So once it has been submitted, You'll see that it's been submitted. Once the transplant program, either VGH or St. Paul's, has looked at it, it'll go to automatically referral received, whether it's accepted or not accepted, that an appointment's been booked, or appointment canceled. So that's sort of where the transplant team is communicating with the referring center. And usually if there's an appointment booked, they will write in under the comments, appointment booked for March 24th, 2017. So any questions about that transplant referral? Okay. So once the referral is submitted, the transplant program will have a look at it. They'll pull the referral. They'll triage it by their sensitizing history. So if they've had a blood transfusion, pregnancy, or previous transplant, they'll probably want to order some extra testing, like a PRA, to make sure that, to see if they're sensitized or not. So that would give that patient priority. The number one priority that we would book a patient in right away if a living donor has been identified. We want to get those people in and screened and okay and ready for a transplant as soon as we can. If they are don't have a living donor, need some donor outreach, we'll bring them in as well for just an appointment with our social worker or a nephrologist, but hopefully that work will be done in the CKD clinics. If they are for deceased donor transplant or already on the waiting list, the other way we triage, or already on dialysis out of the CKD clinic, we'll triage by their blood type. And when we're transplanting, we'll bring them in about a year before we expect them to be transplanted. Any other questions about that module? So once they're referred and seen, you'll be able to look at this transplant referral status. And this, you can pull a list for actually your whole clinic. So if you're from St. Paul's Hospital, it'll pull all patients from St. Paul's. So, and same for VGH, all patients in all modalities at VGH, and tell you the status.
So then you can pick your hospital and then referring to hospital for St. Paul's, and you can check all statuses, or if you want to see the ones where the referral is initiated, where they're sitting at. You can choose a date range for your search if you want to see for like the last 6 months. So in this case, oops, got everybody else. You've got our Elaine test on the bottom, showing that she's initiated status and where she's at.
And that's a good list to pull, especially if you've done your referral initiated and you have to go back and remember to make sure you submit that referral, so you can see exactly where all your patients are.
So I'll do a pre-assessment.
Yeah. The other form under the transplant module is the pre-assessment. So this is where the pre-transplant team at either VGH or St. Paul's is able to populate and let you know what's going on with your patients. So individual patients. So for Elaine, she hasn't been seen yet, but once she's been seen, this information gets uploaded automatically from PROMIS. And once that referral is submitted as well, that information gets auto-populated. This is also where another place where the transplant program is going to write in when the appointment is booked and what else is outstanding before she can be approved or activated for transplant. This is a very valuable two-way communication tool in PROMIS. We use this a lot in the pre-transplant programs, and it also lets us know if any living donors have come forward and what their status is. Any questions about that screen? The last report is under a transplant under reports. Patient lists, and you can look under for pre-assessed renal patients. Again, this is another really excellent communication tool if you want to have a look to see in PROMIS where your patient is. Comments are written in there. So you can pull this by nephrologist or by transplant center. You can get a list of every single patient in the province, but mostly you would like to know exactly what your patients are doing. So either individually, or if you just want to look under one nephrologist, a list will come up, either all seen or not seen. Again, another communication tool.
And then once you run your report, you'll get a list going through of their transplant ID number, the date of the referral, the name of the patient, their blood type, their sex, their age, GFR, who the physician is, their diagnosis, which dialysis treatment type they're in, when they started, and then in the comments here, very similar to how the modality selection report is, it also shows you any additional comments written by the transplant team. So you can kind of get a short story version of what's going on with the patient.
So yeah, that's it.
That's the process from start to finish until they're transplanted.
Yeah.
Is there any questions about anything?
Yeah, well, I'm curious to know if anyone has, from the KBC, currently has access to this module, or will this be new for you to get, and will it be useful?
I have access to it, so we do have access to it. Not all the nurses do, so in say, full KCC, only 2 nurses have, and we just help out the colleagues when they do need some an update. And it is useful.
Thanks. How about other, maybe just go on mute there if that was your noise in the background. And how about other sites? Is anyone using the module, or can you see this being useful for you in terms of communication?
Hi, Sterling and Victoria, we use it.
Great.
Is it useful for you in terms of communication around transplant patients, Darlene?
Pardon me?
Has it been useful to find out information about transplant patients?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I know sometimes there's feedback if you have your webinar mic on your computer as well as the teleconference line open. That can be an issue.
Any other thoughts or questions or anything else? Well, we've got these knowledgeable ladies with us.
The other thing is you can always pick up the phone and call the pre-transplant staff if you want to know what's happening. We're always happy to take your calls if using the transplant module is a problem. We've been, I know at VGH and St. Paul's, we've been phoning the regional clinics every 2 months, setting up a sort of a webinar, or not a webinar, just to talk about patients who've been referred and who've been activated from that regional center. And we're encouraging CKD staff to join in on those sort of teleconferences because they're your patients and you know them the best rather than the post-transplant nurse who may not know them as well. And I know a lot of you work pretty close together pre- and post-transplant, so yeah, lots of resources everywhere.
And if you even need to know just the step-by-step again and how to use PROMIS or what field is used for, there's on the PROMIS portal page, training and support, the PROMIS user guide under HTML. It's just the basic PROMIS BC PRA. You log in and you can search the user guide how to enter the transplant information, and you can do by each section or where you can click classic and you're confused about transplant and how to fill out a certain form, you can find that form and fill it out. Or you can do a keyword search and just say kidney referral. And you can look up topics regarding how to activate a patient on the wait list, to completing the kidney transplant referral, and it goes through all the steps on how to complete the referral form. So if you get hung up somewhere or confused why a certain part was filled out a certain way, you can see the explanation of the status or what's being used for.
Okay. This is Alexis. I'll just give a friendly reminder that if you didn't announce yourself coming onto the call, or if you haven't signed into the webinar, just send me a quick email and let me know that you attended so I can send you the evaluation survey and certificate. So if there aren't any other questions, I think then this is another education session done.
Hi, it's Darlene. I have one question. I think that's my computer, by the way. I had to mute myself for a minute to get that installed. Quick question. You might have covered this at the beginning because I was 10 minutes late, but is there any way to know if there's the donor testing at all?
Yeah, so in the transplant module, under transplant tab, PreAssessment, sometimes a donor has been linked down at the bottom. But just meaning that they've registered doesn't mean that they actually have a donor that's approved. We do keep that separate and confidential, so so we don't want to really release any living donor information to any potential recipients unless the donor wants to themselves. But that's sort of how the pre-transplant people know whether or not to speed up a referral for a recipient if a donor has come forward. Sometimes donors come forward, register, get the information, and they don't follow up. So it's really a step-by-step process. So even though a donor's registered doesn't mean they're an actual donor. So it's really talking to your patients and asking them. They'll have information that they can disclose, but we can't disclose that information.
A lot of times patients will say, oh, well, my friend said they would start testing, but I don't know if they are, and so I mean, I know that that's confidential, but it would be good to know if there was somebody, it doesn't matter who it is, if it was a computer, so somebody was in progress, but I guess that's probably not going to be possible.
No, but that's a good question. So you can actually look there, and if you don't see a name, then you can probably talk to your patient and just say, well, maybe you should talk to your friends again, make sure, give them the information to call the living donor programs.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Okay.
Thanks to Jennifer and Claire and April for doing the seminar today. It was really helpful.
Great.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.